Did it make any kind of noise to you?
No, there was no noise. The first time we saw it was when it was just above treetop height.
Neither confirm nor deny.
Not find any evidence that
UAPs
UAPs have extraterrestrial.
Well, if that wasn't ridiculous enough, hi, my name is Jesse at Trash Panda, and this is the untold story behind our new disc, the Extraterrestrial II. So, I remember the first time I encountered the mad scientist of disc golf. And I mean mad scientist in the best way possible. For those who haven't interacted with Dave McCormick from Gateway, he is a genius. When it comes to making discs, just imagine this going on in your head at all times, and not only it happening, but understanding every part of it and knowing how they all come together. That is Dave. And it was sometime in 2020 when he and I first chatted on the phone. I was still in the garage, not this garage, but the OG garage, making discs on this DIY injection machine that I built that operated on my body weight. And I remember our first phone call like it was yesterday. And by remember, I mean it was a complete blur because he was talking so fast about durometers and injection speeds and RPMs and specific gravity and so many different things that I at the time did not understand. And something I've learned since then is that I was not the only one. There are so many disc golf companies that you know of that were built on early support from Dave. And I wish I could go back to the garage, to that absolute noob who's on the phone with a genius writing notes as quick as his hand can write, and tell him this might have been his first encounter, but it absolutely wouldn't be his last.
Oh, buddy, that is pure.
I mean, that's what we want. So it's 3 years later, and we're about to get our very own injection machine. And I was searching for a bunch of machines and found one in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. So I headed out to check it out, and we ended up not getting that one, but the trip wasn't in vain because I ended up being able to go over and hang out with Dave and the team at Gateway. And while I was there, he, of course, talked my ear off about injection molding again, and I could barely keep up and tried to keep notes, while also getting to make discs and see behind the scenes in their process, which was fascinating. And on top of all of that, I was able to see a bunch of prototypes they were working on that I can't talk about all of them, but there was this one. And I remember just being shook when I saw it. Like, what? You can do that? Or maybe you can do that. I don't know. So this is what that prototype looked like. And as you can tell, it's got a non-concentric rim. And I couldn't help but think, would the PDGA even allow it?
What is this? Oh my god. How do you throw this? Do you just throw it like normal?
What do you think?
I don't know. I've never tried. I'm gonna try this little one.
You like the little spot?
Yeah. Hyzer? What do you think? High?
I think flat.
Flat? Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Like, throw it hard too.
That's weirdly good. I thought it was gonna
Say that again to the camera?
like weirdly good. I thought it was just gonna do like a flip and be like.
So this is where it gets fascinating. This is the Aerobie Epic, and you've probably heard of it because, well, everyone's heard of it. It's the disc that popularized and patented a variable rim width, also known as an epicyclic design. Get it? Like, epic. So I'm gonna make a long story short, but if you want the full version, there's a user on Reddit named IsaacSam98 who did a fantastic write-up about this disc, so I'll link it below. So for the quick version, the Epic was made, patented, and PDGA approved in 2003. And rather than centimeters, if we were to measure both sides according to a speed, which in flight numbers is actually the easiest measurement to get, then the thinnest side of the rim would be a 14 speed, and the largest side of the rim would come in at, I am not joking, a 31 speed. So if you're like me, you've seen this disc on its own and it looks wild, but it doesn't look as inordinately large as it is until you compare it to another disc. And actually, here's that prototype from Dave so you can see them side by side. Literally the thickest side of the prototype is thinner than the thinnest side of the Aerobie Epic. And what you get with a rim this wide is these really uncontrollable flight paths. Don't get me wrong, they're awesome, but also uncontrollable. So at some point, the PDGA grandfathered this disc into approval, but made it so that you couldn't make a disc this wide anymore. I think what happened is that a lot of people thought, because the PDGA grandfathered in the Epic, that you could no longer approve a variable rim disc. But Dave's hypothesis was that it had nothing to do with it being a variable rim width, but rather the rim just being way too wide. So to be clear, that was Dave's hypothesis, but it wasn't for sure that the PDGA would approve it. Regardless, I have a soft spot for weird discs with a crazy story. So last year when I was out there, I told him, whenever you release this, please just let me know. I would love to have one of these in my bag. But that was it. Like, I genuinely didn't think anything else of it, and I don't think he did either. But he called me 4 months later. Top secret. I'm just full of secrets.
Secret, secret. He's got a secret.
I thought I got over on that too, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's so weird to like not throw your entire back out, but throw over 600 feet. So earlier this year, I get a call from Dave, and he's like, hey, so I was thinking, do you want to collaborate on that disc? And I was like, what disc? And he was like, that disc. And I was like, that disc? And he was like, that disc. And I was like, can you make it out of 100% recycled plastic? And he said yes. Actually,
hey, what's up?
how are you?
No, just wanted to go to see Fish last night. My girlfriend surprised me with some tickets. And
Sick.
what you up to?
I've been filming the video for the Extraterrestrial release.
Right. Yep.
And I was curious, I couldn't remember based on our conversation, when did you first start prototyping this disc? What year was that?
1999.
Really?
Well, altogether, the first thing that I ever did in '99 was I milled out the rim depth of a Sabre, and then I started gluing in a penny, and then 2 pennies, then a nickel into one side of it. And I saw once you're throwing them, and once I started throwing them, I saw them loop a little bit. I had weights on 2 sides of the frisbee. One side fell out. But I still threw it, and then I saw it loop gyroscopically.
You're crazy, man. That's crazy. When did you make the first actual, like, non-concentric mold?
A couple years prior to COVID. I'm going to say 2019.
Okay, so I'm learning this in real time with you. In 1999, he started messing around with, like, varying weights towards the edge of the disc. Eventually, somewhere along the line, he put in pennies and then nickels that were acting as weights. And then somewhere along the line, some of those nickels fell out, and that started to show that gyroscopic looping that an imbalanced weight disc does, which is crazy. So then in 2019, he made the first, like, variable rim width mold, which was this prototype. But over time, this disc turned into this disc. Then Dave called me about making this disc as a collaboration. At Trash Panda, we make all of our discs out of 100% recycled plastic. And Dave had a bunch of regrind he could use to make these discs using 100% recycled plastic. And it's so on point with the mission of growing the sport sustainably. Growing the sport sustainably is a team effort. And how better to represent that than 2 manufacturers who actually make discs. Like, we make discs here in-house, and he makes discs there in-house. For 2 manufacturers making discs to bring something unlike anything else to the world.
I really hope you can see that.
So at this point, Dave started to make the discs out of his regrind, which is an entire video we'll likely make in the future. And then we started to build out the world. And there was this crazy coincidence in all of this that happened. When Dave first started working on this disc, he was calling it the Alien. And as we know, Innova approved an Alien, can't use that name anymore. But he didn't know, and most people don't know, our full naming convention for our discs. Basically, all of the names of our discs are Earth-centric, starting towards the center of the Earth and moving outwards. Actually, we literally designed the inner core icon, the icon for our very first disc, to be a teaser of that. So when you think about putters being close to the center of the Earth, and then distance drivers being the farthest away, and you think about the fact that Dave had been calling this thing the Alien, it just made too much sense. We had to find a name that honored both of those things. So the world was coming together perfectly, and I'll talk about that more in a second, but there was this looming question mark still as to whether or not the disc would get approved. All signs point to the fact that it should get approved. Like, if you read the technical standards, it should be, but there were also all these claims out there about how non-concentric rims weren't allowed anymore. By the way, we actually compared the data of rim width to speed. So the thinnest part of the rim is 1.7 centimeters, which would equal out to a 6.8 speed, while the widest side of the rim is 2.4 centimeters, which equals out to be about a 14 speed. And yes, our R&D guy Chris built out a database so we can literally compare all existing flight numbers with all existing disc measurements. So I sent the discs in, and if you didn't already know, this guy Jeff approves every disc. Literally every disc has been approved by him. And he always approves or releases the approval on Mondays. So we waited, and Monday morning came, and so it's 6 a.m. on approval day, and usually I feel like the PDGA does it later. I feel like I remember it being like 10 or 11 a.m. But there's 2 discs approved, and there's no Trash Panda, which has me so confused. So after having what I would like to refer to as a minor freak out, but was definitely a major freak out, I was trying to figure out what was going on and decided to check tracking. And it turned out that even though I'd sent it to be delivered by Friday, and it was a residential address, so worst case scenario Saturday, it had been delayed. And mind you, this was exactly 2 weeks ago from when you're seeing this video. So now we'd have to wait another full week, or so we thought. So in the world of the extraterrestrial, we built upon this idea that everyone would have their own unique and even unexpected encounter. I mean, especially with a disc like this, everyone's experience is going to be different. So with the branding, we leaned into that entirely, but little did we know, we were about to have our own unexpected encounter. Because as I mentioned, this disc arrived to the PDGA on the Monday we thought it would get approved because it was delayed. So we thought we were gonna have to wait an entire other week. But then on Wednesday night at 11 p.m., which ask anyone who knows me, I am never awake at 11 p.m. For some reason, I checked my email, which I also never do at 11 p.m., and there was an approval notification from the PDGA. For some reason, which I need to ask Jeff sometime, he decided to go through the approval process on a Wednesday evening. So 12 days ago, the first disc with an epicyclic rim since 2003 got approved by the PDGA. And today, on August 5th, 2024, you can encounter it for yourself. But be careful, because if you blink, you might miss it.